AI is like the advent of the printing press.
This is Anshumani Ruddra. He's hosted multiple IPLs during his Hotstar stint, currently works as a product leader at Google. He's based in Singapore and talks about his agentic setup for his personal and professional work.
Somebody did this really wonderful experiment where he said, I trained my AI on impressionist paintings of Monet, and he put up a bunch of AI generated images and said, identify and tell me what is problematic with them. The thread has over 1,000 comments and people are just like, oh, AI slop, AI slop. Guess what? All of them were original Monets. He did not put any AI generated image. A lot of people in tech do not have the breadth of usage that a lot of the small businesses do. Anytime somebody complains that I don't have the time to learn something new, I call BS on that, right? Because I'm like, no, everyone has time. Anything which is already hitting a median level of expertise, of quality, I will let AI do it. And we very proudly say generated by AI. People keep saying, what does work-life balance look like? And I'm like, there is none.
How are you raising your child in the age of AI?
Nothing works, man.
Now, on to the episode. Let me start with one of your quotes that you don't think of AI as just another tool. You said that AI is a once-in-a-life multiplier. For somebody who's seen technology probably from the times of having a server, then moving to cloud, with the advent of personal computers, like you've seen kind of all those stages. Even as a kid, you were playing games and trying to figure it out. Why does AI feel different to you?
Thank you first for calling out that I'm old enough to have seen so many technological shifts. But it's true, if you're a kid of the 80s and 90s, especially growing up in India, we saw this massive change, right? Till about 15, 16, there was nothing around. And then suddenly, dial-up internet came and our lives changed because we found this whole niche of being online. And there was a joy in getting your first email ID made. There's a danger in sort of overstating the importance of AI, because I think then it also results in sort of this backlash that, hey, this is just, technological companies hyping up a new technology because, they're spending so much money in building this infrastructure. So obviously they want to, make money out of it. Right. And the part of me also feels like a little, especially when I'm talking to friends, and I spent a long time in non-technology roles and sort of, I used to be an author. I work with people in the media and entertainment industry, who are still, who have a very visceral reaction to AI because it means it could take away their jobs and it could take away their creativity. So I'm always a little hesitant to sort of, be in a very chest thumping way, say that AI is going to be sort of resolve all our issues, right? I think just like any other technology, it has massive pros and it will have massive cons, right? It will have huge drawbacks. Things will become worse before they become better. However, I don't think it is an understatement to state that AI is sort of like the advent of the printing press, or it is like the advent of the internet. So it's not just a regular technological shift of like, hey, we were using, 3G and now we've gone to 4G spectrum and now we've gone to 5G spectrum. It's not that. It's not sort of an incremental shift or even a small step function shift. This is sort of a completely new paradigm. And I hate using that word. It's very corporatish, but it is a completely new paradigm, right? It's almost like human beings did not have the printing press and then they had the printing press and it changed everything. It changed everything from for society in terms of being educated, in terms of being able to enjoy books. The spread of religion is very closely tied to it because, the first book that was printed was the Gutenberg Bible, right? So if you think about it, everything that happened after that is sort of a reflection of this one pivotal moment in history, that knowledge can be spread easily through printed material. And then as we look at the internet, where suddenly the world said, you're not isolated in your small villages and towns and cities, but you can be sitting anywhere in the world and be connected to everyone else. You suddenly realized, oh, wow, the world truly is my oyster. Nothing stops us from interacting with everyone. I think AI has to be put in that category. And without any hyperbole, without any sort of like trying to sell it, to people saying, oh, if you don't use it, somehow you're going to miss out on something. I don't think it's that. But it is going to have a very profound effect on all of humanity. And I don't think that is an understatement in any way. I think that is reality, right? It is going to shift the way
Right.
we work. It is going to shift the way, not just for technology companies, for everyday regular organizations, for individuals. I think I have a very different perspective of it sitting in Southeast Asia, having worked, having been born in India and having worked in India for a long time and now living in Southeast Asia. I can see how it is sort of the great equalizer. Southeast Asia has the largest concentration of SMBs in the world, small to medium businesses. And a small to medium business cannot go and hire its own marketing agency and cannot go and sort of, hire a very large group of people to sort of support
Right.
their business. And so for these solopreneurs, for these individual business owners, AI is just transformative in such amazing ways because now they can do everything that they always hoped for $5 a month,
Yeah.
$20 a month, right? And if we thought of these things in terms of the ROI on them, the return on investment on them, that is so massive for individuals.
Talk to me about the small businesses aspect you said. So I
No, I think AI adoption is quite staggering. If you look at small countries and specifically smaller economies, not small countries, because Indonesia is the fourth largest country on earth. But if you look at Southeast Asia and you look at their adoption, uh, you realize that people have very quickly moved beyond sort of just the chat interface of a Gemini or a Chat GPT or a Claude, right? They've started using more sophisticated tooling, right? So they would go and sort of build their video trailer, using Flow by Google and sort of using the latest video models, and they would try out every new app. They would so I don't think small businesses are necessarily using command line tools, but with Codex and with the Claude Cowork apps, you'd be surprised by how heavy the usage is. So small businesses, see, the thing is, when you're a good businessman, when you're a good business person, you have a very strong sense of what is going to give you better ROI. So the means to an end bit is very, very clear in the minds of anyone who's running a small business. Take, for example, somebody who is running a small spa, right? So they do sort of, massages, they do manicures, pedicures, that kind of a business. Now, they had never really thought about how to market their business, right? So they would pay a photographer, come and take pictures of their, products, their shop front, the things they sell, how beautifully they've set up their store. Now they would take those same images, put it in AI and say, clean it up a little bit, show it from different angles, turn it into a video, right? Create my website, get me onto Shopify, connect this to, Stripe payments or whatever. And that's fascinating because or like I need to advertise on Google and I need to advertise on Instagram, right? So you'd be surprised by, I would venture that a lot of people in tech do not have the breadth of usage that a lot of the small businesses do.
absolutely.
Breadth of
Yeah.
usage, which means that they use a wide variety of tools, right? Wide variety of models, wide variety of apps that are available to just because it's a means to an end. And again, to actually take a step back and answer your question, right? It does two things for them, right? So one is take care of the mundane for me, take care of the things which take up a lot of my time. Then, to be truly honest, if you're a craftsman or if you're an artist who's trying to sell their stuff and you don't necessarily think of yourself as a seller, and you know that selling is not your primary sort of skill, then if that could be managed better with AI, right? So the way to think about this is if I am in the bottom quartile of something,
Right.
in a skill, I'm in the bottom quartile or I'm actually below median. And AI is going to do the job even at a median level,
Better
which
than
means it's
me.
going to do the
Yeah.
job better than I could. So let those
Right.
jobs be done by AI. I'm a
Right.
craftsman. I'm an artist. Let me focus on the thing which makes me
Right.
me, which is my true expertise, where I feel I'm in the 90th percentile. And I think this small businesses do not have existential crisis about what their skill set is. I think the more educated you get, the more venues you have, right, the higher your existential crisis. Right? People like you and I probably have more existential crisis than the small, medium business owner who's like,
Yeah.
I'm good at this. I will make a living doing this. Anything else that can help me to make
Right.
a better living is completely fine. Right? It doesn't take away from
Right.
my skill set. And if I'm in the 90th percentile of something, if this can help me go to the 95th percentile, even
What I
better.
think happens to the second order effect, I think it's happening in content already, right? Like people are seeing a lot
Yeah.
of content being generated by AI and they're like, yeah, this is not super interesting. So there's a big, I think, chunk of people who would just want to read human written stuff. Or when we're interviewing people at Amazon or Google, you don't want to, like, you can know when it's an AI generated answer and you're like, yeah, I'm not interested. How does the second order effect play into, for example, for small businesses?
So that's the first sort of effect, the second order effect that you start seeing, that this does mean not all SMBs fare well. The small business accountant
Right.
who used to maintain accounts for small stores, their businesses might suffer unless they also figure out how to compound their services or be able to offer more services, be able to offer better packages, right? So that's I think very critical, that while it creates opportunity, it also takes away opportunity from a whole group of people. Anything which can be automated will get automated. But I think to your other point on everything starts looking the same. Every store imagine like the street where every store is using the same set of things and creating their hoardings and creating their, menu cards and creating their digital as well as physical merchandise based on this, starts looking alike. I think that's a temporary problem. To be truly honest, I think people tend to, this is one mistake that people are making, that, hey, because it's an aggregate, it's an average of everything that has been used to train it, that is the best it'll produce. I think they are forgetting that emergent behavior is a very real thing with large language models, which means sometimes we will see dramatically new things emerge in text, in images, in video, in sounds, right? And we are already seeing that with a whole bunch of models. What that produces is differentiation. What that produces is not everything would look alike, right? So that's the first part. But the second part is, do people have a problem with looking at AI slop? And again, I think this is a very cultural thing.
Yeah.
Recently, somebody did this really wonderful experiment where he said, I trained my AI on, impressionist paintings of Monet, and he put up a bunch of AI generated images and said, identify and tell me what is problematic with them, right? The thread has over 1,000 comments and people are just like, oh, AI slop, AI slop. Guess what? All of them were original Monets. He did not put any AI generated image. So individuals we all seem to think that we have this higher order taste, that we are able to distinguish AI versus non-AI, or good writing versus not so good writing. And I keep telling people that, look, the state of the art is changing incredibly fast. The state of the art changes every 6 weeks right now, which means all the top models catch up to each other, and then one of them goes slightly ahead. What that is doing is, now imagine 6-week cycles since then, and we are approaching June 2026. A lot of those things are better than median. And the thing is, the average human thinks that they are above average.
Yeah.
So everyone seems to think that, I can write better and I can take better images or I can make better music. The reality is the true outliers are true outliers. And most of us are, that's the way percentile distributions work. We are either at median,
whereas
or below
we think
median,
that
right? A lot of,
like 80% of the humans are above median, and then there's a few below below 10 percentiles. So it's like a completely skewed distribution, and we think that is true.
Absolutely. True. Yeah, because every human seems to think that I am the exception to the rule. All right. Like my core expertise, I was having this conversation with a PM who was saying, AI is not going to write PRDs as well as I do. And in my head, I'm thinking, I've reviewed your PRDs. I know you write decent PRDs, but I'd say you are at 60th percentile or 70th percentile of all the PMs I've worked with. And to think to have this sort of pride of the fact that AI is not going to get better than
Right.
70% of PMs at writing PRDs is
Yeah.
just rubbish, right? So I think a little bit of this is everything going to be AI slop, and will human beings be able to distinguish or differentiate between AI and reality? I think we are in
Yeah.
that stage right now where, it's perceptible. I forget the name. There is something of perception. It's called, we are in the
Mhm.
uncanny valley right now of being able to distinguish when something is real versus not, or that it is AI generated or not. I think within the next 6 months or so, in terms of writing and images and video, the moment we jump across that
Right.
uncanny valley, it's going to be very difficult. But again, going back to the cultural point, this is you can see the stance is very different country to country. It depends very much on people and how much they think their tastes are refined. Whereas again, going back to the example of Asia, I don't think people take it as a negative if something is AI generated. In fact, there is a lot of value in just putting an AI stamp on any content that you create, that, hey, this essay was written by AI, or this image was generated by AI, or that this video was generated by AI, as a badge of honor that, look, I'm good enough to generate something of this
Right.
quality with AI. And the people who are looking at those feeds, scrolling through the feed, seeing AI, 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 are
Yeah.
completely fine with it. Now, one can argue that is that good for humanity or not? And I would say all
Yeah.
content is slop,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
AI or not, if your problem is with the feed, it's not necessarily with the fact that now a big chunk of the feed is AI generated.
Talk to me about on the corporate side. So people who are not working with AI as their core tool, but they definitely want to they understand that okay, they need to adopt AI because that is going to be needed in their work. But
Yeah.
for example, people in sales and people in marketing, I'm wondering like what should be kind of their mindset when talking about AI. What would you say to people who are not using AI and as a core function of their job, but they definitely feel that it is coming even to their profiles.
I think it has a lot to do with age, right? Because I think the way we grew up, a lot of people fall for the trap that, you sort of go through school, and then you go, you know, end up in a college, you do undergrad, maybe you go to grad school, and that is it. Your
Mm-hmm.
learning is done. Now it's all execution from that point on. And of course, people join new jobs. You're 22 years old, you sort of join a new workforce, you learn a lot. Human beings are learning machines. We are very, very good at learning new things. But we do seem to have a mental barrier as we get older, that old dogs cannot
Yeah.
learn new tricks. And that barrier is very real. I see friends who have, and on the primary tool to learn is that you have to, exactly how we learned things when we were kids.
Right.
We played with stuff. We tried to break things, and we tried to pull them apart and put them back together, right? So being playful, I think, is very critical. And then eventually you get to structure.
Yeah. Instead of like panicking, try to change your
But
mindset that this is like you don't even have to have a positive feeling about it, but rather than it will help to have a positive feeling, but just keep it from a perspective of like, okay, this is new thing. Like just play around like how you would get a new computer and you don't know what applications to install and you
absolutely,
break a few things and that's fine.
yeah, that's fine. And the thing is, and here we are specifically talking about people in the corporate world, right? And I would say, compared to a blue collar worker or a small to medium business owner, if you're in a corporate
Mm-hmm.
job, you have a job, you're paid. And let's be honest, you also have time, right? So anytime somebody complains that I don't have the time to learn something new, I call BS on
Yeah.
that, right? Because I'm like, no, everyone has time. Yes, you have a family, you have a spouse, you have kids, life takes over. It's very difficult to take out time and learn something new. But I think this is the mindset, especially for people in the corporate world. I think this motivation has to
Mm.
come from within. It's very difficult. And organizations are struggling with this, right? Because imagine if it's top down and it's mandated that everyone has to
Yeah.
do an AI course, or that everyone has to sit and use token max and use these tokens. It leads to it doesn't align people's
Right.
incentives, right? I think if you don't have a culture of learning in a corporation, in a large enterprise, it doesn't matter whether, you're trying to teach people mindfulness, or you're trying to teach people, how to speak properly, or interpersonal skills, or you're trying to teach them AI.
Yeah.
It won't work, right? So you have to build a culture. So I think this to me seems like the single biggest problem at an individual is broken. And believe me, schooling
Yes.
system all over the world is broken,
Yeah.
right? And I think learning has to be turned into fun. It
Right.
has to be turned into play.
Talk to me about some of your workflows that you have. Like if you can just talk through like how similar is it your professional and your personal setup?
Let me sort of, so on purpose, I've kept, I mean, one is, of course, I work at Google. So when I'm within Google, I use Google's tools, right? And Google is also at the cutting edge of AI. So, I get to use the best Gemini models. I get to use, my work over the last couple of years also transformed into building AI products, which is user-facing products, which used AI. So, customer support chatbots and things like that. But of late, I've been working on a new project, which is using AI to build products, right? So these are new bets within Google itself, that not only are you building AI products for people, but you've started using AI for end-to-end development of brand new products that you will build for people, right? And so my setup then is like, my day is spent talking about AI and using AI and working with teams and experimenting, because it also means blurring of lines, the blurring of lines between product management, design, and engineering, right? Because suddenly PMs and designers are also contributing code to the overall code base, and designers are making aesthetic choices, and everyone is making product calls. So how do you do that with a small team? Because an individual can do a lot,
Right.
with AI and sort of have great ROI, be 2x, 3x, 5x. But how do you get a team to that level of productivity? So a lot of my work now is trying to figure these things out, within my organization at Google. But my setup is, it's pretty much AI all day long. So there are certain calls I've made, which is a product, a document will be synthesized and generated, will not be written. Which essentially means earlier I would write a product requirement document, or I would sort of put in thought and sort of create that 2-pager. Now I would say, no, I'll synthesize all the emails, all the thought processes, chats, like transcriptions of a group meeting that we had, dump all of that in, and, use a Gemini model and use anti-gravity to sort of synthesize all of this, and then turn it into a 2-pager. And then sit and chat with it and find out what the problems are. Comment on it that, this bit
Right.
needs to be tightened. This is not correct. Look at previous documents I've written. Look at the structure of what a good product requirement
So
document
you're
template should be.
supervising. You're
Turn it into a
supervising
skill,
it and making sure
right?
that it reaches
You're
the
supervising,
quality.
absolutely. And you've turned it into procedural knowledge, right? Like, so you're using an agent skill to say, this is the structure in which we write a design document. This is the structure in which we write a product requirement document. This is the structure in which we write a strategy memo. This is the structure with which we write, any other kind. This is the structure in which I write an end of week email. And this is the structure in which I, like, if I have to, like, I am not going to spend a single minute trying to tell people what
Right.
I did last week, or what the team did. At the end of the week, this email is going to be auto-synthesized and
And all the
auto-generated,
chats you're
and we
doing.
will validate it. So yeah, because it has access to my group chats. It has access to every single line of code that has been committed, every single document that has been written. So at the end of the week, it can say, Nick did this, and Anshu
Right.
did this, and Alpha did this, and Beta did this. And this is the synthesis. The team made progress on these fronts. So we've given it a template. So even at the end of the week, I would have spent an hour or two compiling this. I am not going to do that, right? Because I am not going to be able to do a massive delta function jump over what AI is going to do. I look at the output. We spend about 15-20 minutes looking through the output, validate it across the team that, hey, have we missed anything? Do you just want to add an image or a video of like the work that we did last week? And then let's just ship it. right? So Monday morning that email gets shipped. Otherwise, it would have taken us
Right.
hours to put that together, right? So this is an example of a
Mm-hmm.
workflow where AI is just sort of the traditional workflow always was that every team used to send out like a end of week summary of what they did, or a, you get like I get 7 a.m. every morning. I get these are the emails that you have starred. So you need to get back to them. This is your to-do list. This is what the rest of your week looks like. This is what your day looks like. These are the 5 people you're going to catch up with today. This is an excerpt of who they are. This is the last time you caught up with them. Uh, this is the work that you had decided to do. So these were action items from last time. 3 out of those 5 have been completed. 2 are
Right.
still stuck. So in this meeting, they might bring those up. So, here are your answers for why those 2 things are stuck, right? You would need the best assistant
Right.
in the world to actually remind you of all these things. But now with AI, every individual at Google can be empowered with these things, right? So a whole bunch of these tooling, and it's not like these are unique to Google. I think every organization
Right.
can sort of, you can build these with Claude and you can build these with OpenAI. And we've built these with Gemini and sort of built products around Google Workspace, etc., for inside Google. A lot of these products are
Right.
now available outside of Google as well. Right? So that's my
Yeah.
workflow. A lot of it is automated. I'm very clear that anything which is already hitting a median level of expertise,
Mm-hmm.
of quality, I will let AI
Mm-hmm.
do it, even if it is inferior to
Mm-hmm.
what I would have done, because it's also a way of and we very proudly say
Really?
generated
So
by AI.
that's a culture thing then, right? Like that's your leadership and peers around you understand that
It-
like emails from Anshumani probably will be AI generated and it's not looked down upon that Anshumani, can you put Anshu, can you put more
yeah,
focus?
correct. Like absolutely. Like when I say, so I write like a monthly newsletter at Google, which I haven't written for the last few months, but I try and write once every month. And the first part of it is very personal. I usually talk about what's happening in my life, what I've been learning, what I've been doing, how I've been spending time. It's very deeply sort of personal and emotional. That obviously is written by me. Below that is like the work I've been doing in the last 1 month. And now that can be
Right.
auto-generated, right? Calling out
Right,
like the
right.
main things that I worked on, right? So that's the difference, right? So for me, I think at work, I'm very clear that there are things which take up a whole bunch of my time, which are important, which need to be done. Meeting prep, post-meeting prep, beginning of week prep, end of week prep. But all these things can be automated and I can be given the best possible data, synthesized in the best possible way for me to take actions. My utility, right, or my expertise lies in making
Right.
product decisions, lies in the fact that I'm able to, get certain people together, right, align incentives and align individuals and align teams and groups, and then take the right product call so that we at Google
Yeah.
build the right kind of products. So I should
Makes
focus
sense.
on that, right? My utility is
Yeah.
not in writing a great product requirement document if it doesn't result in a great product being built. Writing a great end of week email, uh, you know, it's the nuances are so
Yeah.
minor, right? It needs to be factually correct. It needs to tell people what progress has been made. And the reality is, if they are smart on the other end, they would also have an AI system using this email coming from my
Yeah.
side and giving them just the pointers. So I might as well reduce this work. And I think I'm very open about it. I've openly started saying, when somebody says, hey, can we have a document for that? I'm like, yeah, I'll get it generated. It'll be emailed to you, but it will be generated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to write it because all the data is available, right? So for me to look at 4 different documents and synthesize it and send it to you, even when there is no decision
Right.
inside it, because all you want is what is the current
Yeah.
state?
Yeah.
What is the status quo? Status quo messages
Right.
can be sent,
Is that what you call a super
right?
IC, Anshu? Like, is that like even for like I'm wondering for
Yeah,
developers and engineers, right? Are you saying that even for an engineer, for example, writing code is no longer their main utility? Like it's understanding how the system would be built, what are the gaps, what are the challenges, outliers, like the edge cases. That's their expertise. That's their functionality they're being paid for rather than
absolutely.
writing code today.
Absolutely. High level design, low level design, understanding how these systems work, understanding how, all these orthogonal boxes are going to interact with each other, what your API structure is going to be, right? For a designer to really focus on sort of what are the user elements, right? What are the interaction elements? not sort of be sort of so obsessed that my Figma looks, I have the best possible looking Figma files. No, nobody cares, right? Like, is the product the way you want it to be? And same for PMs, right? Like, have we made the right product decisions? So output versus outcome differences have become very stark and very real, right, in my world. Because earlier we all used to judge ourselves by the output we had. And output was in the, the artifacts that you produced, the documents that you produced. But now we can all sort of, in a sharper way, focus on the outcomes, which is, did we serve our users well? Did we build the right kind of products? Did we move the needle on the metric that we wanted to move the needle on, right? And did we do it in a more efficient way? I want to have fun building the products that I build. I don't want at the end of a week, I don't want to say that my week was spent in attending 40 meetings and writing 312 emails. I don't know why anyone would pay me money for that. They pay me money for this. They pay me money for the fact that I have some taste and I have good interpersonal skills and that I'm able to align stakeholders and make product decisions. So I think the super IC framing is essentially reclaim your time, right? How do you reclaim your time? Because once you have reclaimed your time, then you can use that time to focus on your core expertise. And then also use AI to sort of turn your core expertise into a force multiplier, right? So it's both. You use AI to sort of free up time, and then you use AI as your co-pilot to do more and to truly sort of turn AI into a force multiplier. I think that's the
what
bit.
Would be an example of using AI, like in the example that you gave me of your, like, let's say, like how would you say AI can be used as a force multiplier?
I'll give you a great example, right? If you're working on a live project, right? Like weekly sprints are happening, teams are building, and everyone is using AI to build, so they are moving really fast. As a PM, you want to be a few weeks ahead of your team. Because suddenly 2 weeks later, they'll be like, okay, we are done with the work that we had to do over the last 2 weeks. What next? So how far in the future can you see? Can you anticipate that once we build, these building blocks are built, what will we build on top of it? Right?
Makes sense. Yeah.
Otherwise, you would never have the pre-cycles to do. And that's your core expertise, right? So what that does is that since you're able to do more, you're able to stay a step ahead of your team, giving them this visibility and not becoming a blocker for them. And in fact, at least in the PM world, it's very, very clear that more PMs are going to get hired very clearly in the world of AI. It's definitely happening because everyone is like, the only blocker in my team is not engineering output, it's product decision output. We need more people to make product decisions, or we need better PMs, or we need PMs also sort of being AI built. But you can see that classic, the Amazon 2 pizza rule is changing. It's no longer 1:8. And I always used to joke, why does the PM exist in the team? Because somebody has to pay for the pizza, right? So you had one PM, buying 2 pizzas for 8 engineers. But we are seeing shortening of that. That ratio is going to 1:4, 1:2, where, you have one PM, a really good product thinker, and you put 2 really phenomenal AI engineers with them, and their output is insane. I think this is going to start happening. So I feel good about where PMs are, at least in the world of AI.
Yeah.
But to go back to your original question, right, which was like, so these are my workflows at work. Personal workflows are different on purpose because there I'm more in play mode, where I'm just trying to see what's available out in the world, what's everyone else doing, what's happening over at Anthropic, and what's happening over at OpenAI. What are the new tools being built? So I'm always trying out new tools. What's happening in speech to text, what's happening in image generation.
So you have and I think you have a Mac Mini setup. Is that talk to me about? So you have a Mac Mini, then you have your DJI mic for your speech to text, which you take them on walks. Then you have OpenClaw running all the time, and is that your main go-to?
Yep. So I sort of experiment with, I always have this microphone always with me. That's a DJI Mic 3. It's always on my shirt or on the side of my cap when I'm out cycling or, running. I hardly ever run. I mostly walk or cycle. But when I'm out and about, I like to record myself, any thoughts that I have. And sometimes I would probably speak for about 10-15 minutes in a 1.5 hour walk. But it's good thought. At the end of the week, these are sort of like, okay, I'm thinking about this. Let's do deep research into this. I need to plan for this holiday, or I have to plan for this trip, or this piece of work is missing. Oh, I just remembered I have to pay my
Right.
kids' school fees. So
So
just
these are
sort
like
of like
memos,
these
notes, right? Like
pointers.
things to do, things you're thinking about. Where do you also have like automation around these things, like some things that are really annoying or you don't want to do that's automated using OpenClaw or something? Or Mhm.
Yep, yep. So all of these text memos essentially get, I mean, speech memos get turned into text. And based on what I'm saying, then they go into a pipeline for doing deep research. So if I've said, while walking or cycling, I'd be like, oh, I'm thinking about the role memory plays with agents. And I'd love to write about sort of how we distinguish between human memory versus agentic memory, right? And I would do sort of a stream of consciousness thoughts around it. Now, that's a really good prompt to go
And
do
this
deep
is
research,
on, we would say
right?
you would use
So the more
Perplexity for these deep research. What would you personally prefer?
No, so I sort of use like, so in this particular case I use Claude as an orchestrator, but it uses a whole bunch of smaller models to actually go do
Hmm.
research, right? So all of this is, I don't even have a physical Mac Mini. I actually have a Mac Mini in the cloud, where I just have like an instance of that open. It's just easier
Yeah.
to rent these and expand and contract your work based on, like, you want to kill an agent which is not doing a good job, you just do that. So I prefer sort of keeping these on the cloud and sort of keeping it light, even though my house is now full of devices. So I just want to reduce my device footprint. But a lot of personal workflows are around automating my life. uh, Really irksome stuff, like if you have kids, that schools and after school activities will send out an insane amount of emails, and they all go into these random folders in your inbox. So it's very difficult to keep. So something like automating, look for these specific keywords, look for my kid's name, for my kid's school name, the school's
So
abbreviation,
you have given
whatever, right?
their personal
Look at
AI
these.
access also to your Gmail account. That's incredible trust.
Yeah. So this is Codex is connected to my Gmail. Always at the every Friday 4 p.m. it sends me an email saying, these are all the emails that came around Ahvan, your son. This is what's happening in his school. These are action. This is just an FYI. These are action items. These are things you have to do. This seems important, right? So it sort of categorizes them and sends me a weekly summary that, oh, I need to respond to this, because some school nurse would have emailed saying, hey, the medicines that you gave at the beginning of the year have expired. We are going to dump them. Are you okay with this? You'll have to send us new ones beginning of next year. That email was sitting in spam,
Yeah.
right? Now, if my automated system had not also gone and looked at me, because I've given it specific instructions, look through
Right.
spam also, right? And found this email saying, oh, I do have to
So
respond to that,
you don't use
right?
it for auto
So things
replies.
like that.
Usually it's for more about catching you
No.
up, right? So it's not like you're replying through it technically, but like it doesn't do it on its own. That's like manually supervised, but at least
Yeah.
reading and reminding you, that's automated.
So I ask it to create drafts.
Interesting.
For certain emails, I say, keep a
Got
draft
it.
ready, but sending is not
Yeah,
allowed.
yeah.
I always have drafts ready. So I go back and check it, read them once, and then make minor
That's
edits
pretty
and
cool.
then send
Thanks
them
for
across.
walking us through. And that was the end for the part one of the conversation. If you want to hear about Anshu's career trajectory and his decisions and his mental models, please move on to the next video, which is the part two. Thank you so much for tuning in.